Hey everybody, happy Friday. And for me, usually, I watch horror movies a few every night for my whole life, basically, since I was a kid and got into it. And once this subgenre of horror started getting really big, I pretty much made Fridays like found footage nights. Now, found footage, that subgenre, is very divisive in the horror community. Some people can't stand them. Some people love them, and there's usually not as many in the middle. It's a very love or hate genre. Same with torture porn. God, I hate that fucking term so much. It's so stupid. Like, you can watch Jason or Michael Myers, or Leatherface chop people up with chainsaws and decapitate people and stuff like that, but that's fine. But then the Saw movies and Hostel and stuff, that's torture porn. Come on. Ridiculous. So there's a lot of found footage movies. Ever since the Blair Witch Project, which I honestly never cared for that much. I actually love Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, which is a very unpopular opinion. I absolutely adore that film. So that's where opinions are going to differ. I have a lot of unpopular opinions. And most of the found footage movies that that are on Tubi or any other streaming service, 90% of them suck. Like, it's very hard to find good found footage movies. And after Blair Witch kicked it off, and it was really more Paranormal Activity that, like, I believe kicked off the whole found footage craze of like the 2010s and everything after that. Never cared for them either, really. And a lot of people's complaints that I hear all the time about found footage is that it's just people shaking cameras around and you see nothing and nothing happens. Which is true for a lot of these found footage films. Like, a majority of them. They are cheap to make. Anybody can make them pretty much, extremely low budget. So it makes sense that there's going to be an oversaturation in that subgenre. And a lot of them, the majority, are going to be terrible. And there are many terrible ones that I have seen over the years. But there are some good ones, like Wreck, The Bay, The Conspiracy, Lunopolis, and this movie, The Monster Project from 2017. Directed by Victor Matthew and starring nobody, pretty much. There's no one in this film that I've ever seen before or saw again. And they pulled a Blair Witch thing by having all the actors' first names and the names of their characters in the film, except for one of them, I think Devin, like his real name's Justin in real life. Good name. So he's got that going for him. So when I first saw this movie a few years ago, I was searching on Amazon Prime and just stumbled upon this movie and read the description, and I said, that sounds interesting, and threw it on, and I absolutely loved this movie. It has so much going on in it, which is, like I said, a lot of people's issue with found footage is that they don't see anything, nothing happens, it's just a bunch of talking, and this movie is not like those movies. Like, this movie, we'll get into it. So we have Devin and Jamal, who are making their best friends, and they're making a video of like a rake monster and stuff. They make like fake monster like videos for YouTube, for their YouTube channel. And Devin has an idea that why don't we put an ad in Craigslist saying that we are looking for real monsters to interview and see if we get responses, and we'll do a whole little show called The Monster Project, who Jamal comes up with. Now, the acting in this movie, I mean, it's a found footage movie. Devin does pretty good. Jamal, I love his character, but he overacts like a motherfucker in this movie. The girl, Muriel, she's fine. Like, nothing great, like, at all. Like, she's fine. And then Brian, who's the recovering addict, or who slips up in the movie, who is by far gives the best performance in this movie. By far. He actually does a great job. So, after they have this idea of making this show, The Monster Project, And they send out a thing on Craigslist, an ad, and we meet Brian, who is Jamal's friend, who's a recovering addict. And he sends like video diaries to his parents every day, saying like it's day 200 and something, you know, and I'm doing all right and I'm feeling good. And Brian is very, very religious, very big into God and everything after getting clean sober. And ends up, Muriel comes in while he's filming one of these, videos to his parents. And apparently, she knows the parents too, and says hi on the video and everything. And you can tell Brian really likes her, but they're just friends. And Devin, the character best friends with Jamal, who was making this Monster Project film, used to date Muriel and ended up leaving LA, just up and left her without saying anything, and she is still furious with him. So they end up going to meet, they get a response on the Craigslist ad, and they go to meet someone on Native American grounds that is a cop who claims to be a skinwalker, werewolf. I'm just going to keep saying werewolf for the rest of the movie, it's a lot easier. So they go and meet up with him, and he agrees to do the interview. And so they get one monster for their little show. So after that, they get another response, and it's from a tattoo artist named Shayla, something like that, claiming to be a vampire. And she wants a vial of blood in exchange for doing the interview. So Devin asked Jamal, he ordered a needle offline and ended up holding it up, and Jamal says, no fucking way, you don't pay me enough for this. And he said, you know anybody who is that broke who would do this? And they shoot to Brian, the addict, and they end up taking his blood. Devin pays him like $100 just for taking his blood. And Devin and Jamal go to this meeting place where they're supposed to drop off the vial of blood for this vampire chick. And while they're there, they see nothing, they see nobody, but the vial of blood disappears pretty much right in front of their eyes, which freaks them out. Jamal starts freaking out, like, wait, what the fuck just happened? And he, like I said, he's a great character. He's got by far, he's the comic relief of this movie, and he has some funny lines, but he overacts like crazy, but it doesn't bother me too much, because I like his character. Then we hear banging on the door at 3 a.m. at Jamal's house, and Devin's there, and Brian's been living with him for a while as he's been getting back on his feet after getting sober. And they find nobody at the door, but they find a DVD with the name Shiori on it. So they throw this DVD in, and they watch it, and it's just this Asian girl who is claiming to be possessed by a demon her whole life, like since she was a kid. And while they're watching it, a cross on the wall falls off the wall. And again, Jamal starts freaking out. Did you just see that shit? Did you? And Devin is just completely into this project. He's not getting scared off or worried or anything. He's just like, monsters are not real. There's nothing to be worried about. We're gonna have these 3 crazy people who think they're monsters come, and we're gonna interview them. And who gives a shit if it's real or not? We'll make a ton of money, and we'll have millions of views on YouTube. That's his primary goal. Is just make it big on YouTube and make a lot of money. Doesn't care the authenticity of it or anything. So we hear Devin talking shit about Brian to Jamal when the two of them are alone, and saying that he's a parasite and that he's a junkie and that he saw the track marks on his arm when he was taking his blood earlier. And it's funny, he mentions, have you seen Requiem for a Dream? They don't beat it, which is funny because I just did an hour-long in-depth discussion on Requiem for a Dream like earlier this week. So it's Brian's birthday, and they have a party and everything for him, and Jamal sees Brian from far away meeting up with a friend of his, and sees like an exchange between them, and he thinks, oh, shit, is my friend getting high again? So he goes and confronts him about it, and it turns out to be a condom, and his friend said that like you shouldn't go without one on your birthday. And Brian, you can tell very clearly who he wants to use that on, and it's the girl Muriel, but they are just friends. Even though she does kiss him, she's drunk, she ends up kissing him, and then apologizes immediately and say, I'm just drunk, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, I gotta go to bed, peace. and just leaves. And so Devin ends up coming, who was not invited to this guy's party after what he said and everything about him being a junkie and a parasite and all that, and ends up saying, you know, I know when I'm a big enough of a guy that I know when I was wrong, and I know when I did something wrong. I never should have said that stuff about you. That was totally out of line. And hands him $600 in a card as his apology. $600. That's some type of apology. And after Brian gets kissed by Muriel and she goes inside, he throws a chair. He's pissed off, you know, that it didn't get to happen with the girl he likes, and he pulls out 2 pills out of his pocket. So we find out that he did indeed get pills from his friend, and he is starting to slip back into using. And the next day they head off to the shooting site, which Devin rents from a older man with a wife who's in a wheelchair, and she's has dementia, and she's looking outside and saying the moon because there's a lunar eclipse going on this night. So they're going into this creepy house on the night of a lunar eclipse to interview a werewolf, a vampire, and a possessed person possessed by a demon. Sounds great. Just very, very, just a lot of red flags there. But monsters aren't real, right? Of course not. Not in this movie. So they end up putting everything together and setting up for the shoots and stuff like that. And he tells them, Devin says he wants everyone to leave their phones in the car because he doesn't want them ringing or making noise or audio feedback or anything, which I thought is a clever way of getting, you know, that's always in found footage movies or in many other horror movies and stuff, is that why not just use your phone and stuff? Like, why don't the phones work? Why don't they have phones and stuff? So it was a little clever how they handled the phone issue in this movie by just saying, you know, I mean, how much audio feedback is just having your phone on you going to cause? 0, probably, is the answer. But it's, at least they addressed it. They addressed the phone thing. So that at least makes it better than most films that don't even address that at all. And they find the homeowner's wife in the wheelchair, and she's talking to herself, and like I said, she's saying the moon, and then she starts screaming. The husband comes and says sorry, she doesn't know where she is, she gets confused and everything. And Devin ends up bringing with him to this house for this interview a bag with wooden stakes in it, and a cross, a crucifix, and then Jamal asks, what about silver, for the werewolf, just in case? And he said, you're wearing a silver necklace, we got it. That's a funny line. And so they end up starting, we hear Muriel scream while the rest of them are outside talking or doing something, and they run into the house, run upstairs from where she's screaming, and they find Shiori, the young Asian woman who claims to be possessed by a demon, just standing creepily in the hallway next to her. And they say, oh, you're early, you can wait in your dressing room. It's this is like a crack house. It literally looks like a crack house. There's no lights and shit. They have to go down and turn on the fuse box just to get the electricity going. And the owner of the house who's renting it to them for them to do this is saying that the people used to break in here and have sex and do drugs and sacrifice animals. Again, so many red flags that you'd be all right, I don't know about this. And so we have the vampire show up. What a sexy vampire, man. This girl is fucking hot. Very, very gorgeous vampire. And Brian ends up going outside and taking some pills. I believe it's Oxycontin that we find out later. And then the Skinwalker werewolf shows up. See, I said I wasn't going to use Skinwalker, and it just pops out. And so we have the 3 interviews, one after another. So we have the interview with the werewolf. Got it that time. Then they're talking about just asking him questions, and he wanted to conceal his identity, so you can only see his silhouette, and he says that he's concealing his identity for their protection, not for his. And they start asking him, how do you become a skinwalker? God damn it, I'm gonna keep saying that. Whatever. Werewolf, skinwalker, lycanthrope, you know what I mean. And what it feels like to transform. They ask, has he ever transformed? Of course I have. And what's it feel like? And he says that you just turn into an animal, your brain splits, and cool dialogue, actually, from that little interview. And next they interview the vampire, like an interview with a vampire. Great movie. Shayla, yeah, that's her name. I wrote it down. And asked Brian to do the interviewing. And she says she likes the quiet ones better. So Brian is like, he's holding the boom mic. That's like his job for the night. He's just holding the boom mic and just, making sure the audio is good, and that's it. So he gets into the chair and starts interviewing her and asking what she does. She's a tattoo artist, and she's covered in tattoos, and her eyes, just the way her eyes are and stuff, awesome. Like, she looks great in this. And she ends up saying, answering like what it's like to be a vampire, and that she can walk in the sun, but it's like being hungover and everything's intensified and she can't hear herself think. So that's why she goes around, travels, and she's nocturnal and travels at night and everything. And she ends up telling him, Brian, that she ended up that she tasted his blood, the vial that they left. And that she tasted Oxycontin. She said, Oxycontin, never a favorite of mine, but it tasted good with your blood or something like that. And the friends start freaking out on him. And like, what is she talking about? And Brian starts freaking out, screaming at her, saying, you're fucking lying, and blah, blah, blah. Ends up like going to the bathroom and like, not breaking shit, but like really going like nuts and stuff, that he got found out basically. Jamal comes in and starts saying to him, where are they? Where are they? And starts messing with his pockets, pulls out a pill bottle and starts shaking in front of him and says like, hey, I can't believe you lied to me and everything. Like I said, there's some great performances in this movie. Like I said, he overacts, the guy who plays Jamal, a lot, but it's still good in a way. Like, it works somehow, like, just because of his character and like the comedic relief from him a lot of the times, it just works. And like I said, Brian's performance is just very, very good in this movie. The only one I could say that's not too good is the girl, is Muriel. She's, like I said, she does fine, but anything crazy or anything like that. So then we get the interview. Brian ends up leaving and going out in the front yard and stuff and like making a video for his parents like he usually does, but this time it's him saying, look at your fucked up son. I can't go without a day without a dose. And he's just flipped out that he got found out and that he's weak and that he can't do this. So while he's out, they just continue on and they interview Shiori, the demon-possessed girl. And she starts describing what the demon looks like and saying that he's always smiling, he has no lips, and he has like an animal he looks like. And then you get this camera starts distorting a bit, and then you get this cool shot of like the demon's face flash on the camera, like while it's distorting. It looks cool, nothing like amazing, but it looks good. And so Muriel, the lights go out, and basically this is where all hell breaks loose. And from this part of the movie until the end, the pacing and intensity of this film does not let up at all. You see everything. You see, you see all these monsters. There is great creature effects in this movie. That it's the total opposite of the usual found footage that, you don't see shit, or you just see like one little thing. Oh, what's that? And it's a quick thing, and it's like you don't even know what the hell it was. Like this movie, you know what you're seeing. You're seeing it all, and it just never stops until the end. Like it's intense how it just keeps on going. And the lights go out and everything, and we find out that they are actual, real monsters, for people who watched Nickelodeon when they were a kid. And Muriel sees the werewolf start changing in front of a window by the moon, the lunar eclipse. Then he starts changing into a werewolf, and Shiori starts levitating and stuff, and they try escaping, and then the vampire comes out and starts attacking them. So you got all these three actual monsters, a vampire, a werewolf, and a demon-possessed Asian woman that are just wreaking havoc in this house that they can't get out of. So Brian's been outside this whole time. He has no idea what's going on. And Jamal gets maimed by the werewolf, like on his back. His back gets all scratched or bit up and stuff, and he shot the werewolf like 4 times, he said it didn't even stagger him or put him down or anything. And Brian's outside, so they come out and tell him what's happening, and they go back in for Jamal because, like I said, he got attacked. They don't know if he's dead or not, but they're not going to leave him there. So they go in, and we get a few cool shots of the demon on the camera again, like distorting and stuff. Because don't forget, it's found footage. They're filming all of this and everything. So on their cameras, it starts distorting, and you get some more demonic faces and stuff. Like I said, not fantastic, but for the budget and for a found footage movie, it looks good. And Brian tries talking to Shiori. She's like cowered in a corner and everything. And he's trying to like get, it'll be all right. We'll get you out of here and everything. And she turns around and like full demon face and stuff, which actually looks really good. Really good effect. There's a lot of good effects in this movie, like creature effects and just certain shots and stuff. And like I keep saying, for a found footage movie on such a low budget, excellent. On that type of rating scale. Would I say this movie is excellent? No. But it's very good and it's very entertaining. And like I said, it's filled with action and stuff. There's something always going on from the half-hour mark when they reveal themselves to be actual monsters until the end. It never stops. And the vampire ends up attacking Muriel, and Jamal stakes her to death. Vampire's dead. It was that easy, I guess. And they find Shiori in a closet as the werewolf's chasing after them. They lock themselves in this room, and they find Shiori in the closet. And Brian tries finding a way out through the crawl space in the basement, and sees this goat head thing, like, poke its head through the window, which freaks him out, and he starts going back out of the crawl space. And Shiori starts telling Brian, well, the demon in Shiori starts telling Brian it's time to pay for his sins. And cool shot from the demon, like she basically does like the hunchback spider walk from The Exorcist deleted scene, like on backwards with her stomach up on all fours. Really cool shot. Even though, like I said, it's pretty much ripped right from the deleted scene from The Exorcist. But very cool shot. And Brian takes the crucifix, and Devin tells him start praying. And like I said, Brian, after he got clean for 200 and something days or whatever, he got very religious, big into God. So he starts praying with the Our Father prayer. And apparently just saying that once will just incapacitate the demon. But I've seen Exorcist so many times, and they had to say the power of Christ compels you like 50 times in a scene, and that still didn't get rid of the demon. So not too strong of a demon in this movie. But he starts praying again, and then we get actually a dream sequence. Yes, a dream sequence in a found footage movie, which sounds ridiculous, and it is, but it's very well done. Like, it's very surprisingly well done. Like, you hear dream sequence in a found footage movie, and then when I first saw this and I saw that it was going that direction, I said, wait a minute, like, I've never seen this in a found footage movie. But the way that it's shot, it's shot so creepily, and like it's in the backyard of Jamal's house, like where Brian's living and everything, and like everything's set up like it was for his birthday party. And the demon is there and starts saying, you got to pay for your sins again. And we find out that Brian he was dealing drugs, and he sold a bad batch unknowingly. He didn't know it was a bad batch, sold it to a few friends of his, and they all overdosed and died. And he's been feeling guilty as hell and responsible for this, for however many years it's been since that happened. And the demon's in his head and knows this. And it starts taunting him and everything. It gets a little stupid when, like, there's, like, so much exposition that the demon starts talking about that you could have figured out without it, absolutely. I mean, like, they show some creepy shots of like the friends who OD'd from Brian's batch he sold them, and their eyes are all like fucked up and they look dead, but like good effects on them and everything. And just from that, and he's saying, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was a bad batch and stuff, that's all you needed. That's it. But then the demon goes on in the voice of the demon, which sounds stupid. Like, it doesn't say anything at any other point in the movie, really, except for like shrieking or something like that. But it goes on to just explain the obvious, that you sold the drugs to your friends and now they're dead. And then so it's like, come on, we really needed this exposition from this demon in this stupid voice. Like, that's stupid. I didn't care for that. But the rest of the dream sequence thing, for what it is, and in a found footage movie, surprisingly works pretty well. And the demon, he snaps out of this little dream sequence, and they're screaming at him to continue the prayer and stuff. So he finishes the Our Father. I can't talk about Our Father. There we go, Our Father, and the demon ends up just gone. But then we find out that it transfers into Muriel's body, and now she's possessed. And again, apparently a Hail Mary or whatever the prayer he was saying is all you need to get rid of this demon out of somebody's body. And she's not possessed anymore, and it seems like they got rid of the demon for good. So we have the vampire dead, we have the demon expelled from this Asian woman's body, and we have left the werewolf skinwalker. And Jamal's back, like they show like a shot of like where he got like mauled by the werewolf and stuff. Looks great. It really does. Like, very cool. Like, and his back is fucked up. Like, it real bad. Like, to the point of like he's gonna die probably. Like, if they don't get out of there soon. So the skinwalker werewolf thing ends up. And what I like about the werewolf in this movie is like, it's not your typical werewolf that like on all fours. It's on just its legs, and that's it, and it walks around, which is cool. I mean, it's been done before, so but not often enough, to see it so often that you're like, all right, I've seen this so many times, like a regular werewolf. Like, it looks cool, and the creature effects on it, like, they look good. They look very good for, like I keep saying, the budget and being a found footage movie. They did a great job with these effects for these creatures and these monsters. Very good. And he ends up getting to the basement, and they get chased around, and we assume that Jamal is killed by the werewolf. And we cut to Muriel, who's dying from her vampire bite earlier, and Devin comes in, and she's saying, what's happening to me? He's like, you're dying. You got bit. And does not help her one bit, and just walks out of the room, which is our first little hint. Well, there's a few others in the beginning, like small little things that, like, after you see the movie once, you'll notice it again, or you might pick up on one or two of them, like that something's not right with this guy completely, but it's not that apparent until obviously this scene that he just leaves this girl who was his ex-girlfriend that he left and then came back and was trying to make amends with and stuff, and just leaves her to die. And there's a great shot of her on the floor. Like, there's a camera that fell on the floor, and it's faced right at her on the floor, like 10 feet away, and she's violently shaking and convulsing on the ground as she's dying. Awesome shot. Like, it looks so good. It looks so creepy. And Brian comes in that same room after Devin leaves, and Brian sees the goat mask wearing thing. It's a human, like, wearing a goat mask on it, like some satanic looking mask, and sees him again, and he says he is coming, and then just disappears. And Brian ends up seeing Muriel's body on the floor, and he is just absolutely heartbroken because he really liked this girl a lot, and they were good friends for years before that. So he's just screaming like, no, like, how did this happen? And she ends up coming back to life as a vampire and attacking him. So he has no choice but to pull off the wooden chair and make like a handmade steak, and ends up staking her to death. Which, that's got to be hard, man. I mean, sure, it's a vampire now, and it's trying to kill you, but the girl that you love, like, you see her dead on the floor, and then you have to kill her again, that's got to be hard. And Brian ends up escaping from the werewolf through a boarded-up window, and they say earlier, and Devin says this, so you have to take it with a grain of salt once you've seen this movie once, like, because of his motives. but he says that like all the windows are boarded up and some have cement blocks in them and stuff. There's no way out, and just conveniently, when we need our last character to get out, he finds like the one window with one plank on it that he can just pull off and slip out the window. It's ridiculous. And the werewolf chases him through the woods. It jumps out the window and chases him. They're running through the woods and everything until Brian comes across another house, and the werewolf jumps in, and he picks up like a metal spike or something like that, and the werewolf falls onto it. Werewolf's dead now. No more monsters. Should be the end. And then that's the issue. The biggest issue I have with this film is the ending. The whole premise of this movie up to this point has been such an original premise. It's been executed very well. It's been, like I said, the effects for the monsters and the makeup and all the effects for the movie have been great. And then we get this ending that comes out of nowhere. And he's walking through, Brian's walking through this house and stuff, and there's satanic symbols everywhere, or like painted on the walls. And we see the goat-faced, mask-wearing guy and Devin show up. And ends up revealing that he's part of a cult who want to resurrect the Antichrist, basically. And Brian's tied up. They tie him up, and Devin explains that it's all part of the plan. The lunar eclipse, the real monsters, is all three other the friends, Jamal, Brian, and Muriel, and even the house that he rented was all part of the plan. It was all planned out, and he needed all of them to get this job done of the cult resurrecting their Antichrist. And he ends up praising to God and praying and stuff while he's tied up, while the cult is like worshiping Satan and everything. And like I said, it's just such a random ending. It's like a completely different direction than the rest of the movie. Is it terrible? No, it's not. Like it's all right. Like, I didn't like watch the movie the first time and say, oh, this is great, but what the fuck is this? Like, this is terrible. What a terrible... Nothing like that. But they could have done so many different things to end this movie than this. And like I said, it's not terrible. It's not great. It's whatever. It's fine. The rest of the movie more than makes up for it, in my opinion. And they end up slitting Brian's throat and killing him, and that's the sacrifices they need, the three friends. And you hear the sounds of of Devin transforming and like body breaking and stuff. Great sound design in this movie too, like just the sounds of like the monsters and their movements, and like just all the sound design is great in this movie also. And you just hear Devin transforming into this devilish creature, and you don't see it, but you see the shadow on the wall, like the silhouette, and he just looks like a winged creature, like the Jersey Devil almost. And that's the end, basically. That the Antichrist is born, and that the cult succeeded in what they were going to do. And we even find out that the goat mask wearing person is the owner of the house they rented at, and his wife in the wheelchair is there also, so they are part of this cult. And that's why that house was planned and part of the plan, because they are part of the cult. That was the house of the two cult members. And then we just end with a jump scare, which I hate jump scares, most of them, and it's just a camera sitting on the floor, and then just like a vampire face like pops in, and just and then credits. Stupid jump scare at the end and stuff. But if you haven't seen this movie and you like found footage, and you're like me, that most found footage just doesn't do it for you, because like I said earlier, like it's just nothing happens, you don't see a lot, like it's just a whole bunch of talking and shaky cameras and nothing original or anything, absolutely see this movie. I don't know why you watched this review if you haven't seen this movie, but even if you did, just watch the movie. It's a very, very good found footage film, which are very hard to come by these days. Especially like nowadays, it's so oversaturated. You go on Tubi and there's like 1,000 found footage films that are 90% terrible. Like, I've seen such terrible found footage movies, and this is absolutely not one of them. This is a great found footage film. It's original, the premise is original, the acting, like I said, is for the most part good to great. The sound design is great. The monster effects are great. The pacing is great. Like, everything, almost everything about this movie is just so well done for its budget and for being a found footage movie. So check it out if you haven't. And since, like I said, it is Found Footage Friday for me, so I will be having another review up or two later tonight, or into the early morning, for Butterfly Kisses, which is another great found footage movie that it's not talked about nearly enough in the horror community or found footage community. And probably another one that I'll just pick out that I've seen before, or maybe a brand new one that's going to suck and I'm going to give a terrible review on it. So I will see you guys soon. And again, happy Friday. Hope you guys are doing something fun and exciting, better than watching horror movies and reviewing them. So see you guys soon.